Hello, I'm Mohammad Ziad Siddiqui, here today with my partner Taha. We are the founders of Prosilient Systems. Our aim at Prosilient Systems was basically to make clinical trials much more accessible, open, and much less predatory as they are right now. We know over time the clinical trials have become much more intrinsic processes, and this is due to the fact that nowadays there are a lot of various data parameters that need to be collected. And not only that, but these parameters need to be collected over much longer span of time and extended periods. This also highlights the need and necessity for remote health monitoring rather than just performing clinical trials at, for example, the hospital or nursing homes, which also adds kind of a bias to the data collected from the trials. All this complexity leads to several challenges that the clinician or, for example, a pharma company who's carrying out a trial for drug development. These companies face a lot of challenges due to the increased complexity of the trials. First of all, there's a lot of infrastructure limitations. With the current ecosystem that's available for carrying out these remote clinical trials, it's very fragmented and it's sort of incomplete. It basically only provides the basic features needed for a remote trial, and those features are fixed, they're locked in, you cannot do any more customizations. And this basically limits the efficiency and the scope of the trial, which obviously limits its potential. Then there's the problem of only limited devices being available. For a trial, you only use a certain number of approved devices for gathering data, which means that if you need to record a parameter, you need to make sure that there's a device available out there that you can use and which has been approved for you for data transfer. This often limits the clinical trial too. There's also the problem of integrations that comes along then. For example, if you find a device you find 2 or 3 devices from different manufacturers that give you all the necessary parameters, you end up in the problem of integrations because each manufacturer has its own device, and usually those devices send the data directly to their own servers, and then in the end you have to collect the data from their own servers. So for example, using 3 different devices, you have 3 different endpoints, you have to collect data from 3 different sources, and then integrating all of the data into one single report or collecting that data becomes very time consuming. It also adds a lot to the cost of the trial. And yeah.
So we're really trying to build a holistic platform for collecting and analyzing and sharing clinical data. It really needs to be easy to integrate new devices into this platform because we've already discussed how limited the selections are from pre-approved or pre-integrated devices. We also want you to have more data control and ownership. You should not be dependent on whether the business that is hosting your data right now survives. You also need to be able to access that data whenever you want to, through whatever ways that you want to. Also needs to be much less predatory and a lot more affordable. If you go into a leasing model for your devices, you end up paying almost the same amount that the device costs, and you pay over for any service charges. And in the end of the day, you don't even own the device. So we want to make that a bit more sensible, even if it is going on a leasing sort of design. It also needs to be very customizable. So currently, from what we've thought of, from what we've designed with the partners that we've worked with, we have a specific solution. However, we don't want it to be limited to that. We want this to be a starting point for any clinician or any engineer who has an idea about conducting this clinical trial in an organization. So it needs to be very customizable, and you should be able to add features that assist you in your trial. So we're really trying to target pharmaceutical and biotech companies. We want to target academics, CROs, hospitals and medical clinics, and government organizations, because they're the ones who seek the most benefit from the platform that we're trying to design. So we have a few basic building blocks for our platform, which is the Care Hub. So the patient can actually complete their patient-reported outcome surveys through it. They're available through the clinician or the academic researcher. They're able to design these surveys. They're able to connect the different devices, the wearable devices that would need to transmit data over to their to the cloud services that are being hosted, get notifications, and sort of be this middle point, this hub of communication between the physician and the actual participant of the clinical trial. We also have a very sensible default wrist-worn wearable. It's called the OpenSense, and it has 6 of the very required parameters that we've been able to identify while working with our partners, which is an IMU, a PPG, ECG, heart rate, body temperature, and bioimpedance. We wanted to give you a very accessible, easy to use wrist-worn wearable that has the basic parameters that most clinical trials would require without having to invest heavily into researching, purchasing, or designing another wearable. This is a starting point for any clinician working with us. We're also able to integrate third-party devices very easily, and the proof of this is we've integrated an off-the-shelf smart scale that includes bioimpedance. We didn't want to design one. We didn't want to go into the expense of designing, purchasing, and manufacturing such a complex device. We also integrated another open source wrist-worn wearable because it was, again, very affordable, very accessible.
Another tool that we offer is our cloud console. You can consider our cloud console as a portal which provides insights on the current trial that's being carried out to the clinician or the organization that's carrying out the trial. You can use this console to get the status of the devices that are being used. You can look at if the patients are using the devices correctly. Are they following up on their protocols? Are they being compliant with the protocols and filling the surveys or gathering the data? This console can also be used by the clinician to download the data from that has been recorded, or even generate specific reports with more insightful data to help him carry out the trial.
So we're designing a very end-to-end cloud solution. We don't want the researchers or the physicians or the organizations who are using our platform to be sort of divided over multiple different services. So within the solution, we have the console that Ziad has already discussed, which is the main entry point for the clinician to get an overview of how the trial is going on. We also have a data sharing part inside of this where the organization should be able to share that data easily with other running instances of our cloud solution. We also have our own AI algorithms that are running in there to give you that insight from the raw data that comes in from any wearable that you have integrated into the platform. It's also very customizable in a way where you could integrate your own AI models, your own machine learning models into the platform and have your own insights coming into your reports.
As discussed, we do offer a lot of competitive advantages, you can say, in our platform. First and foremost is the one where our platform is completely sovereign, which means that you have full access to the hardware and the software sources. This in turn means that you have lifelong support of the devices. It often happens that, for example, if you purchase a device from a manufacturer, you can only use the device for as long as the manufacturer supports it, even though you have paid the full price for the device. In our case, since you have the complete access to the hardware and the software, you can keep on using this device for as long as you need. You can modify it and add your security updates if you need to, and keep on using them as you wish for how long ever you wish to. The other advantage that we offer is, as we have mentioned and as Taha has highlighted too, is the limitless integration possibilities that we offer. If you use some other platform from a manufacturer, you are often limited to connecting and integrating devices only that are manufactured by that manufacturer. In our case, since our platform is completely open, it doesn't matter what manufacturer has made the device, what device you are trying to integrate, you can just seamlessly integrate the device, and it's a very quick process. In the end, all this means that you can tailor our platform to fit the exact needs of your trial. Now, this is very important since usually because of the limitations that are out there, this means that the clinician has to basically tailor his trial according to the platform, which leads to sometimes inconclusive results or not so efficient results, and not basically getting the results that you need, since you have to tailor your trial and not you cannot change the platform that's available out
And
there.
it's also very important where we want you to be able to own that data. We want you to have that HIPAA compliancy that you require or whatever other compliance that you require without having to worry about how is the company that's hosting your data handling it. We've already seen so many large tech companies who have severely gone against any sort of user agreements that they've had, and they've invaded the privacy of many of their own customers. So we want you to have that access of hosting the services on your own infrastructure. You can have some contractor help you out with that. You can have us help you out with that, but we want you to have that ownership of that infrastructure. We also want you to have ownership of the devices. So you're able to audit them, you're able to go through the compliances that you need, and you're also able to customize them to however you require.
Another problem that is usually faced in especially remote health monitoring is you're limited to only performing the trial on to users who have some experience with technology, because it's sometimes carried out on mobile devices or tablets. It's not a dedicated device. In our case, since it's a completely dedicated device which has the only purpose of carrying out the trial, it's very simple and easy to use. You don't need to have any experience with any kind of technology. You can just straight up start using it. And a proof of this is that recently a study using our platform got published in the Journal of Geriatric Oncology, where our platform scored a system usability score of 92.8. Now, to put that into comparison, geriatric patients usually rate such other platforms around 74. Our study was carried out on geriatric patients, and they said that our devices and platform is very friendly and easy to use. Our pilot study is currently being carried out by the University of Chicago, where it's basically a clinical trial for geriatric cancer patients.
So I guess the main purpose of why we started all of this, it was primarily with the fact that how difficult it is to conduct something as vital as clinical research, where everyone is just trying to provide a platform which will maximize their own profits instead of ensuring that the needs of the actual clinicians and academics are met. So the way that the platform was really engineered was to focus on providing this ownership and providing this sort of support that you would not be able to get if you did not have access to the hardware and the software resources. When we got into this, it was really hard to argue with people about why aren't we going with specific, really well-known devices like iPads or other Android devices. That's what competitors in this area are using. They're using these very well-known manufactured devices that are a lot more expensive, and they also have not super long end-of-life support dates. So we really wanted anyone who invests in these devices, builds them out, purchases them, to have that option of always having the ability to support it. We want this to be very sovereign when you are the owner of the devices, you are the owner of the platform. And we want you to be able to conduct your trials by your own standards. You should not have to restrict your own research to what is available on the actual platform that you are now subscribed to. And if you want to go into something that's a lot more customizable, it's a lot more expensive. So the way that it works is companies like to offset that cost directly on that one particular customer, which is fine. But companies also don't understand that if you make the platform a lot more open and more accessible, people who do need these integrations will happily be able to share them, because it's a win-win for everyone. It's just the predatory practices that have come into play inside of the medical research industry. It's made it a lot difficult for clinicians to even think of a platform like this to be a possibility.
Yep. So as Taha said, that our main goal was to basically make sure that you perform your trial according to your standards and not the standards of the companies that help you do these trials. And the only way to achieve this was by creating a whole platform. And we also make sure that our platform provides end-to-end services, which means you do not need any other services or any other subscriptions, for example. You do not need anything else for your trial to carry out successfully. You can just use our platform, and you get everything from the devices to getting data onto your own cloud if you wish.
And also data sharing.
Yeah.
So the way data sharing has worked is it's very archaic. You might have a platform that your organization is registered with that could provide you some better form of data sharing. However, it's not really that sound. So from what we've heard and from what we've observed, a lot of organizations just use Box or any other public cloud file sharing service. You can't enforce their compliancy on that. You can't enforce a lot of things that you would want on the other party. So the file sharing service might have compliancy with expiration dates or how long the file should, or even to who the file should be accessible to, but ensuring that that data is not saved in some other part of in some other sort of environment where it should not be there and past the term limit that is approved on it. It's just these solutions aren't there, and it's not usually expected to provide that. So we really want this platform to nurture the clinical research and actually help the researchers push forward their work and to allow people to collaborate with each other with this data that they have. You can do all of the legal and contractual stuff outside of the platform, but once that's done, sharing that data in a very compliant way should be super easy for you.
Yep. And often the companies that are out there, they limit you in every way possible, so you end up paying as much as they can squeeze out of you. A big example of this is that even companies that provide you with health monitoring devices, they don't just give you the raw data. And sometimes that's very important because, for example, if you're a researcher, you might have your own statisticians that need to work on the raw data. You might need to calculate something for your own self, right? If you don't have the raw data, you don't have that ability to do that. What these companies do is usually they send you just some pre-calculated values. For example, if you have a wrist-worn wearable, rather than sending you the accelerometer readings, they might just send you the step count. And they charge you even for calculating any other data parameters. For example, if you need the activity index, they say, okay, if you need that too, you need to pay more.
And that's like the problem with using consumer grade hardware.
Exactly.
The consumer doesn't really care about this. So yeah, if I had a wearable, let's say if I had an Apple Watch, I don't care about the raw accelerometry data. I only care about the step count or my activity.
And that also leads to another problem. Most of this health data is basically, there are a lot of privacy issues with gathering health data. And if, for example, we we are even the best fit for companies that are making new wearable devices or health monitoring devices. If you're a new device out there and you need to send data to the server directly, you cannot just directly start sending data. You need to go through their compliance and everything. It's basically a very long process. But if you just directly connect your device to our hub securely transfers data, and it has all that infrastructure already built in. So you can just straight up start sending data to the server and collecting data from that device.
So yeah, integrations, yeah. So if you,
Yeah.
that's one thing where manufacturers also, if you're designing a wearable which could be on any part of your body or could be any sort of device that is meant to monitor an aspect of a patient, you would need to either start heavily investing into this whole software ecosystem. If you want to integrate with any existing platform, usually since they're closed source, they're so difficult to work with. Companies either just build out their own, and in the end, like Zad said, you're just stuck in this whole compliancy net where you need to start worrying about how am I going to make this as compliant as I can, just so it's easy for my customers to use it. But again, the solution that we're proposing is you can host it on your own infrastructure. So if you're a research organization, most research organizations have their own cloud infrastructure or have contractual agreements with cloud infrastructure providers because they need it for compliancy. You could host it on your own infrastructure and not have to worry about all of that.
So before concluding, I just wanted to highlight another thing once again. We did mention that we are a complete platform, which means we provide you everything from A to Z for carrying out the trial. But unlike others, this doesn't mean that you're limited with only using our things, right? We want you to be as free as you want, right? Which means that you can replace any service at any moment and use your own service, as Taha mentioned. For example, if you have your own cloud, you can use that with our platform too. You're not limited to just using our services throughout.
So thank you for watching. And if you are interested in our platform, you can contact us by visiting our website, prosilient.systems. And if you're interested in getting updates from us, that's the main source where you'll be getting them. And yeah, thank you.